All right, how to live a more generous life. If you're a godly man or a godly woman, if you are setting your sights on a closer life with God, if you want to be more generous, more kind, and more loving towards those in your life, then we have some beautiful information to share with you today. This is Xander Sage. I'm your host here on the Xander Sage podcast. And today we're going to read a verse from Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, all with the intention to see how we can take the word of God through the gospel here and learn how to live more like Christ, to awaken the Christ within us through the teachings. With today, a focus on generosity. So it's a really beautiful reading, and we'll get right into it. It's Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, if you'd like to follow along. So the word, be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. Otherwise, you have no reward with your Father in heaven. So whenever you give to the poor, don't sound a trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and on the streets to be applauded by the people. Truly, I tell you, they have their reward. But when you give to the poor, don't let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you. Amen, the word of the Lord. So here we have a really beautiful reading on generosity, and not just how much we give, or really not how much we give, but how we go about the process of giving, and what is our relationship internally like with that act of giving. And that's really where true generosity lies. So right away, there's a warning. Do not practice your righteousness to be seen in front of others. And this is key, because if we do so, then you'll notice, like if you run an experiment for yourself, for example, where you give a lot of money to charity and then you ask to be known and have your name put on a building or something like that, you'll get a lot of congratulations, thank you. You'll get recognition from the community. And this recognition runs the risk of inflating your ego and then bringing with it a sense of superiority, a sense of righteousness, which actually erodes the effect within your heart of the very act of generosity in the first place. So true generosity, true giving from the heart is an act of love, is an act of love for the other. It is not an act of inflation of ourselves. And that's really, really important, is that we do it from that right intention and we do it from that right place. So the first step is to really be aware of where we're giving in order to subtly get something in return, where we're subtly looking to get recognition or subtly looking to get some emotional benefit on our side that is not just a pure joyousness in our hearts that we feel, which is really a closer connection to the divine that pure generosity can bring to us. So that's the first step. And the second bit there is not to let your ego take away the benefits from the giving. So first, we want to know that, we're not intentionally doing it. But secondarily, even if we are giving in a way that we think is pure, the ego can slip in and try to take some of the benefits. So we might even notice, like, we have an impulse to give in a pure way. We just see someone who's in need and we want to give them a benefit. We want to donate to somebody, or someone's walking down the street and they need some money, and we want to give it to them. And we do, and it's a pure impulse. But then the mind can come in, which is really the ego. The mind comes in and starts to create stories about how, oh, I'm so good because I did this. In that moment, that's exactly not the place to be. The place to be is really in the heart, and to just notice and feel what is alive within our hearts, because that's our connection to God, is through our hearts. So when we give from a place of purity, when we give from a place of true generosity, we stay within our hearts. First, we give from the heart, and then we stay in the heart, and we notice the fruits and the reactions of the heart from that generosity without going into any stories of the mind, which is where, the ego steps in and tries to take some of those benefits. And the problem there, if the mind does that, then we're actually disconnecting from the heart and disconnecting from God. And that's exactly what we want to avoid doing. So when you think about generosity, it's the act of like giving to charity or something like that is one common way to think about it. But really, it's every act that we are involved in can be viewed as a generous one. Me making this podcast right now could be viewed as a generosity to people. You listening to this podcast could even be viewed as a generosity to people as you're becoming closer to God and bringing your consciousness more in line with Christ. So really anything we do, going to work and the work we're doing is a generous offering of our skills and our talents for the improvement of something, for the, it's an offering of our hearts. So when we start to view all of our actions as generosity, then we can really do them from the heart and we can forgo the egoic benefits. We can say, I actually don't want any of those benefits that my mind is trying to latch onto, that inflate my ego, that inflate my status, and inflate my material wealth. I give those up to God. I offer those to God. All I'm looking for out of this is a deeper connection, a deeper union with Spirit, with God through my action. And there's a practice called consecration that's from Karma Yoga, which is the yoga of action. And this is a really beautiful practice that actually allows us to do that, because it sounds great to just do everything in the name of God, but the ego and the mind are so set in their ways about coming up with ideas and schemes about how to derive benefits for the individual self and the individual personality from our actions. So the way to actually begin to unwind that pattern is through a practice called consecration. And consecration means to make sacred. And what you're doing is taking whatever action you're going to do and you're saying, I offer this to God beyond any idea of personal gain, personal benefit, success and failure, right and wrong. I do this from a place of purity from my heart. And the consecration is done with presence in the heart, with awareness in the heart, and is an offering to God for the action that is about to take place. And then any, benefits that do come, any fruit that does come, you're also offering that up to God. And that doesn't mean the benefits never come. It just means we're not attached to them egoically and we're not acting from a place of needing to get that return in some give and take exchange manner. And once we're free from that, need for a return, then the action comes from a place of purity and purifies the heart. And as we know, all good things come with the purification of the heart. And that is really how we deepen our connection to God, which is our ultimate aim here. So consecration, and I'll give you a quick example here, just so you can kind of see it in practice. I'll consecrate this podcast, and it only takes about 30 seconds, but I think seeing the example and how I would go about it is really important. So first, you would just come into a prayer pose, hands in front of your heart. And the reason for coming into prayer pose is because this actually centers the consciousness in the heart. It starts to bring your awareness down from the head to the heart, which is where all of these beautiful virtues of love, compassion, generosity, kindness, all of these flutter out of the heart. So first you center in the heart in prayer, and then you would just say, I offer this podcast to you, God, beyond any grasping for more views or more followers, beyond any need for personal growth or monetization of this podcast. I give it up as an offering. Any right and wrong I forego, and I accept the outcome as you see it. May thy will be done. So it's a true offering. And then you're detached, and then you act from that place. So that's what I do with nearly all of my actions. It's a constant offering up to God throughout the day. And just this keeps me in a place where I'm very close to the Father, and it's a place of peace and union with all of life. So it's beautiful practice. I invite you to explore it. And this is really how to live a generous life, because then we're constantly acting with a detachment from the results. We're not worried about it. We're giving from the heart with everything we do. And from there, as you give, you receive. So the funny part is the egoic benefits that the ego so tries to latch onto often do end up coming back in some way, in a way we might not expect, but there is a beautiful kind of reciprocity that the Father provides. So that is the basic practice of consecration, and that's really the key to living a more generous life. This practice of consecration contains the previous points in it and is built into the practice. So if you want a further breakdown of how to do consecration and really to go into the nuances of all of the steps and different practices of how you can use it throughout your life, and I recommend joining my free community, Awaken Academy. I'll put a link in the description below, and this has much more in-depth breakdown of consecration, as well as many other principles of Jesus' original teachings and yogic philosophy that we can use to come closer and closer to the consciousness of Christ. So thank you so much for listening today. I will see you soon. Much love. Thank you for joining today and taking 5 minutes for yourself and for your spirit. Your presence is appreciated. No matter how busy your life gets, remember that 5 minutes with spirit is always a good investment. If you enjoyed today's episode and you want more of this and you're hungry for spiritual growth, then Awaken Academy, my free spiritual community, is a place for you. We have guided meditations, deeper spiritual teachings, and community support. You can join for free at the link in the description, and I'd love to see you there. Thank you so much. I'll see you again soon. Much love.